Breakfast. I'm Veronica Dan Igboy. In the studio with me this morning is Kemi Fola Ademo, already looking prepared for the weekend.
For the weekend.
Of course.
But I was wondering, but you know now, work.
I know, but you're looking like the weekend already.
Okay, I take that. And you look like you're heading somewhere. Is it okay? It may not be an O1 there, but necessarily the weekend appears to have started.
I know, right? Anyway, it's good to see you this morning.
Yeah.
We have an array of issues we will be looking at this morning, talking about AFCON. We are still looking at the reactions coming out of Nigeria's qualification for the finals. And then we're also going to touch on the inauguration of the committee put together by the president to address this matter of rising cost of food items as well. And then we're going to also touch on the passing of the famous actor and storyteller Jimmy Sholanke. But then we'll begin with this story, a cheering news, where days after two passenger buses were abducted by gunmen along Kogi State, all the kidnapped victims of the God is Good Motors and ABC Transport have regained freedom. Now, the commercial vehicles conveying passengers to Abuja were hijacked on Saturday in Inele Eteke Ogugu, New Road in Olamaboro area of Kogi State, prompting a police rescue operation. Now, while the God is Good vehicle conveyed 14 people, including the driver, the ABC Transport had 2 people on board at the time of the incident. The spokesman for the police in Kogi State, William Aya, confirmed the news of the freedom of the commuters to TVC News.
5 days after 2 passenger buses were abducted by gunmen along Kogi State, all the kidnapped victims of God is Good Motors and ABC Transports have regained freedom. The commercial vehicles conveying passengers to Abuja were hijacked on Saturday along Olamaboro area of Kogi State, prompting a police rescue operation. While God is Good vehicle conveyed 14 people, including the driver, the ABC Transport had 2 people on board at the time of the incident. The police spokesman in Kogi State, Williams Aya, confirmed the news of the freedom of the commuters to TVC News.
Such a cheering news. Good to know that they have been released, and we know that the psychological trauma and all of it right now. But one thing concerning for me, because I am from Kogi State and I understand some of the things going on there, I think the government of the state needs to do something and fast about this matter of the level of kidnappings that always occur along that route. Kogi, that's access, Kogi State, for instance, talking about the Lokoja, Abuja route, Okene, Abuja, those routes. It's always something that is concerning when people want to follow those routes. They are scared of what could happen, about their safety, getting to their destination. So I believe that the current administration under Usman Odudu have to begin to look at what is going on to address this matter. I recall that the former governor, Yaya Bello, said he had zero tolerance for this kind of things, kidnapping, when in December about 14 persons or 21 persons were kidnapped from Ajakuta. They were on their way, I think, from Lokoja to Ajakuta, and they were kidnapped. And so he mentioned that he had zero tolerance for these matters, but it keeps reoccurring. Something has to be done.
Right, and it's a road that, many people are familiar with, that Abuja, Okene, Lokoja stretch of the road, because...
But this is different, though. This is Olamaboro, but still in Kogi State.
Right, but it's still apparently within the axis that leads to, because the...
To Abuja.
To Abuja, because these particular captors or these particular hostages were taken on their way. They were coming from the east, taking on their way to Abuja. Initially, the reports were that they were coming in from Lagos. And when I heard that news, I was, I was really alarmed, because I remember my past road trips to Abuja. This was a road that, even though the roads were not good at the time, but, we stopped to shop, we stopped to sightsee, look at things and all of that, to rest and all of that. Even though, yes, you're right, it can be isolated, but, security, way back then, I'm talking about 10 years ago, I'm sure security wasn't like, as rife, as the insecurity wasn't rife as we see now. And having to make even a trip to Ibadan now by road is something that people have to think twice before they go to. And this is an option that many people use.
Readily available option.
Readily available option. I know, having to think twice, and it's not like people travel. There are people that travel just because their means of livelihood depends on it. But there are people that, people will always travel. And Absolutely. So it is, stating the obvious. And, it's just an urgent plea for all governments to ensure that insecurity becomes a thing of the past. Because it's a development as serious as this, we don't get to hear beyond the good news that they have been released, but now we don't even have details of what terms of how were they released. Was ransom paid? Because one of the captors, or one of the hostages, one of the spouses of the hostages was saying that a 15 million naira ransom had been demanded. We don't get to hear what happens. Is the money returned? And most importantly, are these criminals nabbed to serve as a deterrent? And even when they are arrested, do we go beyond the prosecution, the long walk to justice that, it's also a burden, on our government? Do we get to see these cases through? It ends there and people just go back to living their lives. But then the psychological effects that this would obviously have on Absolutely. The people concerned, on those people who were there with the abductors, it's best imagined.
That's it. It's only best imagined. It's unfortunate that we keep hearing issues like this. Yes, we hear the police say we made arrests Absolutely. And all of that, but that hasn't served as a deterrent to what is happening. And we know how close the state is, the proximity of Kogi State to Abuja, and we also see what is going on in Abuja, for instance. So it is high time that the government critically looks into this aspect. Kogi State is a central state where a lot of persons ply that route to either the Abuja or any other state, to the east, to anywhere, Lagos. You just link everywhere from Kogi State. It's a critical point that the state government needs to liaise with the federal government to see how they can stem the tide of kidnappings. You can imagine some persons cannot go home as regularly as they would want to, or they had to move their families out of Kogi State because they want that proximity and would not want any sense of this kinds of things happening to them in the process of saying, oh, we want to go home to see our family members. So it is high time that state governments begin to look critically into the matter of this issue of security, how they can liaise with states closer to them and even the federal government to see what can be done. It's critical. We saw what happened in Ekiti State, for instance. That is also in the news this morning, how it is that families are still talking about that matter. Government is still looking into the matter. Issues of, okay, person's been arrested. What happens afterwards? We need to begin to give people reasons why they should not engage in things like this, because lives of persons are at stake. Families are being stretched to, look for monies where they cannot get it. We saw the other day where people were trying to raise ransom. They were doing crowdfunding.
Absolutely.
Yes, to raise funds. It's not ideal, so to speak, in a democracy. People need to feel the essence of democracy, the dividends of democracy as we get along with democracy.
It's such a crucial subject, this issue of security, because it affects every other thing. Here Absolutely. We are talking about the socio-economic situation in the country, talking about rising food prices, and all these issues come back
tied to security.
They're all tied. They all come back to the primary mandate of government, which is to ensure
security of lives of property
are secure. So it's a big burden, and you know, all through the campaign, the election period, this was, you know, the most paramount concern of many Nigerians, which our leaders, you know, rode on, you know. And so this is one thing that everybody hopes that, yes, while the government is working hard to fix the economy, the security situation of the country is also, you know, greatly improved for the good of everyone.
Okay.